I don't know about you, but I learn a lot more from hearing about people's failures, mistakes, and lessons throughout their business and their life journey, rather than always hearing about the wins, the successful acquisitions, the selling of companies. So that's exactly what I did in this video. I basically asked a load of agency owners what's the most expensive lesson that they've made in their career, so that you don't have to go through losing all the money or the time or the stress on it. So we've got one agency owner who talked about how they churned 30% of client revenue, which was millions of revenue, and how they lost great team members because of it, and how not to do that, basically. We talk about with one agency owner how they could have got from 5 to 20 million a lot faster, how to avoid hiring mistakes, how to avoid service offerings, and much, much more. And I don't know if anybody watched the most recent episode with Mr. Beast on Diary of a CEO, but he's got a couple hundred people working for him. And he talks about how one of the biggest things that he tries to embody in his culture is the culture of experimenting. And what he goes into detail about that is it means that you're allowed to fail and it's okay to fail. And the only way that we're going to get better as a company is by pushing the boundaries and constantly failing. And he literally talks about how he's not scared of losing millions and millions in the process, which I thought was very, very interesting. But anyway, I hope you enjoy this video.
The most expensive lesson was probably also the what I consider to be my my largest professional mistake, which was I decided to buy an agency in the end of 2017. And when I started putting that deal together, another one kind of came up at the same time. And so I didn't expect the deals to close as close to one another as they did, but I found myself in a position where I think the first agency acquisition closed on January 6th of 2018. And the second one was like January 12th. So like 6 days apart. And, looking back at it, I don't know what I was thinking. I had never bought an agency before. And like having just the pure ego to think that I could not only integrate one set of team members and one set of clients into my team and my clients and my workflow, but the gall to think that I could do it with two agencies at the same time was like completely insane. It's like kind of psychopathic to think that I could make that actually work. It didn't work. It went horribly wrong. So in the first probably 6 months, we churned probably 30% of the client revenue that we acquired. So like millions of dollars, and lost a bunch of incredible team members, just because, the organizational planning that me and my partners had laid out that we thought would work didn't work, just because of a sheer lack of experience. I think the biggest lesson, the more expensive lesson, right, if we just look at the client revenue side of things, was thinking that we could buy clients that were used to being delivered the same services, but being delivered those services in a different way, and just being like, well, we don't do it that way, and so we're just going to deliver these people that are paying for these services. We're just going to deliver these services the way that we deliver them for everybody else, and thinking that like clients would just be okay with that. They would just, be so thrilled to be working with us. They weren't, and so it was like just just bled hundreds of thousands of dollars a month for a while. Pretty much through all of 2018, actually. It was a rough year, but a very expensive lesson.
Ooh, I have a good one for you. So last year, the year before, we were looking for a agency platform that would allow us to better understand our utilization of our team, as well as be able to forecast what was going on. And we had the demo and it was really good and it made sense. And I basically agreed to like a 12-month contract. So we're talking about, multiple $1,000s. And once we got in there, it just didn't match. Like it was made for more like time and material type projects. We do more retainer based, and retainer kind of has its own feel and way of doing things. And yeah, it just didn't work. And we were locked in, but so in the end of the day, we tried to get out of it, but they didn't want to. I think they give us like a little bit of a discount here or there, but it was a very expensive mistake, and it's just hard. Like, and it's happened to me in other scenarios as well, where like I feel like I'm doing my due diligence, and and I've vetted it out, but then you get in, and then once you're in, you kind of see that there's problems. So, look, it happens sometimes, and like it's with any sort of risk, right? It's a return. It could have been really, really good and the solution that we needed, but it didn't end up being that way. So it's okay. And we've moved on from that.
I think it's always just reminding myself that it comes back to the people and the talent. Everything about an agency is built on the product and service, and the product and service is dependent on the people. And I think whenever you look at if anything ever goes wrong, it's generally down to not having the right talent in the right place, or the combination of the client and the team that's working on it, or the team themselves, how do they get along? So it's about having the right people in the right spots, not hiring early enough and having that talent in place. At the end of the day, we're a service-based business, so it all comes down to how good our team is. So I think any of our biggest mistakes comes back to the quality of the talent and the combination of them with the clients and that sort of thing.
I would say there's two things, getting an executive assistant earlier, because I was probably spending my time doing things that I probably shouldn't have been spending my time on, and my time is valuable. And I probably could have been leveraging my time to do things to make the agency grow faster if I would have gotten an executive assistant sooner. And then the second thing would have been getting a coach sooner as well. I didn't get a business coach until we were about 5 million in revenue. And I got the coach so that he can help us grow from 5 to 10. Since we hired him, we've grew from 5 to 20. But I think we might have grown a lot faster if I would have gotten a coach to hold me accountable and to give me some cliff notes and shortcuts into doing things, so I didn't have to pay them for the mistakes that I was making. So.
Oh, hiring the wrong people. Yeah, that's by far the most expensive, and doing so multiple times, right? Very, very difficult because you invest. Let's say you keep this person on for 6 months, because look, for the first 2 months, 3 months even, it's going to take them a while to get caught up to the way that your agency runs, right? You have to give them that grace and that opportunity. But after that, if you're still having problems in the month, if you're having problems in the month like 4, 5, and 6, then it might not be a fit. And at that point, you've invested 50 grand. It may be more, probably more, depending on the role. So, that would be the most expensive lessons that I've learned. I wish I could tell you the answer.
And what kind of advice would you give to agency owners to try and avoid hiring mistakes?
Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. That comes from the Green Berets. And I believe in it. I do. I think that going through the interview process should be just that. It's a process across multiple members of the team. And it doesn't need to stop at 2 interviews. In fact, the best people that we have on our team went through a process of like 5 interviews. And in a lot of cases, they have to present to us. They have to present something to us. They have to do an audit if for example, if it's an SEO, they're going to be doing an audit for a domain, and they're going to be doing that SEO audit and then presenting it as a part of the interview process. If it's pay-per-click, then we're going to be looking at it a different way. We'll be giving them access to our machine where they can control the screen, and we see how familiar they are with the UI of Google Ads, because that's a really easy, quick telltale sign. If they don't know how to find auction insights, or if they don't know how to find the search terms report, we know that they're not going to work.
Very expensive. I didn't get into the details of it, but we spent a very long time trying to build a product that broadened our market, right? That essentially went from, this is at Moz, from just SEO to helping social media marketers and content marketers and PRs and digital advertising specialists and PPC specialists, all that kind of stuff. we didn't do it one by one. We tried to release a big update that offered all these different solutions to these problems at the same time. Big mistake. I think one of the things that is very smart about modern product and software development is to iterate in small chunks and release very quickly and see what sort of lands and resonates with your target audience and your customers. And then I think after you've done lots of big releases and, lots of small releases and made iterative changes, then you can do kind of an inclusive, hey, we're going to do sort of a redesign project, no new features, but we're going to package everything more nicely so it all fits together better. I think that can work very well.
Quick pause. If you're getting value from this conversation about scaling agencies and hiring top talent, I want to share something that might help you. Are you struggling to find A players for your digital marketing agency? We've got you covered. For SEO experts who turn rankings into revenue, head to SEOforhire.co. For paid media specialists who boost your bottom line, check out paidmediajobs.com. And if you're looking for foot rubs, you're definitely in the wrong podcast. All right, let's jump back into the episode.
The most expensive lesson I think and there's two. I was thinking a lot about this, and I think there's two. The first one is 3 years ago we had an opportunity to expand our service offering from organic to paid. So we had an opportunity to bring in. There was an agency that I was quite close with that we shared a number of clients with, and for various reasons, the founder moved on to other projects, and that agency sort of dissolved. They didn't wind down, but they weren't wound up financially. But the founder was involved in a rapidly growing e-commerce project, and his attention went elsewhere. That agency wasn't necessarily at a place where there was value in selling. I took the gamble to go, right, okay, we'll plug them into the agency here and we will start offering paid. That was an incredibly expensive lesson, which hindsight is a wonderful thing, and I regret that so much for two reasons. One, it took our focus away from who we are and what we do. We are organic through and through. That is where my background is. That is where our senior team's background is. It was a distraction. It distracted my attention and our senior team's attention away from doing what we've spent 10 years building up, and took us into territory that we weren't necessarily confident on. And it took us into a position where we didn't have the reputation in that space. So very quickly, some of the existing clients that agency was servicing, yes, they came on initially, and we brought that team in. We folded that team into the agency. But realistically, when contracts were up, when people moved on, we were no longer the best option out there. And, I've always been quite obsessive in terms of going, we do what we do and we do it very well. It was an opportunity that, looking back, was too good to be true, that we could just fold in a team. And we're not talking a large team, but I think the reality is we got sort of 3, maybe 6 months in, and it was very, very obvious that we were carrying that. So that was an expensive lesson. It was an expensive lesson, but I say an expensive lesson, but an incredibly valuable lesson, because, we as an SEO agent, as an organic agency, we get asked all the time, can you also take on PPC, paid social? It taught us that we probably could, but we don't want to, and that we are better off staying true to our values, staying true to who we are, and doing what we know we do very, very well. So it's not a lesson that I regret doing it, but the learnings were so incredibly valuable. And I think sometimes you have to make mistakes and own those mistakes to realize why we shouldn't do that, why we should focus on doing what we do.
I mean, the most expensive lesson for me specifically is process is everything, right? Like, I am one of your stereotypical, amazing ICs who's suddenly become an entrepreneur, but I was never a process driven person. I'm still not to some degree, meaning that, you know, if you have me do like your site audit, I might do it a different way every time, because I'm always like, there's something more to look for. I'm not just looking at a checklist. I'm not just, you know, rattling off this process that I do every single time. And when you hire people, they need that. Like, not everyone operates the same way an entrepreneur operates. Most people want like a blueprint for here's how you do this the right way. Here are the thinking points that you need to have like laid out for you, because, you know, they just don't feel so comfortable figuring it out as they go. And that's a really expensive lesson, because there are people that probably would have been really good if we gave them a clear and you know, very detailed process map, that weren't good because they didn't thrive in the environment that I thrive in. And so it took me a long time to be like, all right, there needs to be checklists and examples and so on and so forth. Otherwise, like, we're just going to burn so many cycles of inefficiency of people trying to figure out how I did things. And then when they do that, they just replicate the one version they saw me do, which is not the way to think about it, right? Because again, every client needs something different. And just because I called out this specific issue for one client doesn't mean we need to look for that every time, or we need to highlight that every time. So having the process is how we get the flexibility for people to be able to think, because they're already clear on what it is that the base level looks like. So very expensive, because, you know, we probably would have retained more clients had we had that. We would have had, you know, less switch costs on people that were either fired or left or what have you. And yeah, that's probably the biggest, most expensive lesson I've had in my career.
I think there's a couple, but I think the first and biggest would probably be just being the cost of keeping people on your team when maybe they're not the right fit. Waiting too long, holding on to someone who doesn't align with either our culture or our expectation. It can obviously drain our resources, impact team morale, delay progress. And it's always difficult to do that. But it's, in the long run, it's important to make those tough decisions early on, rather than waiting longer to kind of delay what might be the inevitable, right? So I would say that's the most expensive lesson that we've learned. It's always been, it's still a struggle today, but it's something that we're consistently aware of, and we're always working to kind of further improve that. The other expensive lesson has just been bringing on clients without clear alignment, or not setting the right expectations. When that doesn't match up, it leads to churn. We end up spending too much time to try to satisfy the clients who likely won't stay with us in the long run. So those two by far are the biggest and most expensive lessons. And I'd love to say they're 100% fixed, but it's one of those things that you're always kind of working to consistently and always try to improve that. And it's what we try to preach to our sales team, to our leaders, in terms of, hey, if you're noticing that team members just aren't cutting it, obviously we want to give them the ability to kind of make adjustments, improve where we can, and have that type of dialogue. But like, in the long run, just not delaying the inevitable.
I was thinking about this because I think this is such a good question to ask. The most expensive lesson that I've learned running an agency is around senior people. And I'm going to tell you something. When you hire senior people, especially expensive ones that, you know, 100, 200,000 a year kind of vibe, it's not about what they've done in their career. It's not about their experience and what they can bring to the table. It's about how they make you feel. And I actually did a LinkedIn status about this yesterday because you made me think about it. When you have an MD, an FD, a business partner, they're meant to make you feel secure, safe, free to go do the things you're good at. And if you don't feel those things, you should seriously consider their role in the business. because really they're there to make you feel better, feel confident, etc. So I think I've kept people in my business because I love them, right? I like them as people, and I feel like, well, they've got 30 years experience doing this, so surely they're going to help me. But at the time I felt alone. I felt scared. I felt not secure. And I think it got to breaking point, and then I realized, shit, I'm not meant to feel like this. And then that's when I realized this is a very expensive lesson to learn. I'm not meant to feel like this. So I think that's probably the one that I would say the most.
Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed that video and got some kind of value from it. If you did, please make sure to leave a comment in the comment section and let me know any feedback that you have for future videos. And of course, hit that subscribe button because we will be releasing videos every single week. So you're going to want to stick around. Thank you and see you in the next one.